Finally, we're at settings. Possibly the most important setting for getting a cinematic image out of your camera is the frame rate. Now, traditionally, film has been recorded at 24 frames per second and then projected back at 24 frames per second, and that's still the standard today. There are definitely other frame rates like 2997 or 60 frames per second, and they have their place, but for the purposes of your CMF film, we want to be as cinematic as possible, which means shooting in 24 frames per second. To make sure that your camera is in the correct frame rate, you're going to look at the display screen on the back of your camera. Up in the top right center-ish area, you're going to see a numerical value, either 23.98 or 24p. If you notice that your rate is a number that is different from either of those, you need to change it. So what we'll do is we'll press the menu button, and then you'll wheel down 3 places to the record quality subsection and press the menu button again. Once in there, you have pages of recording options you can choose from. For this purpose, we are looking for what their frame rate is. So we'll scroll through until we find the right frame rate that also matches the desired resolution, and we'll go ahead and select it. Just a word about 24 frames per second. There are actually 2 different versions. There's 23.98, really 23.976, and true 24 frames per second. The reason for this is an overly complicated scientific explanation from a bunch of scientists in the 1950s, adding color subchannels into black and white video streams. It's complicated, but at the end of the day, the result is that you can film in 24 frames per second or 23.98 without a real visual difference. And the problem comes if you try and combine the two. Say one camera's shooting in 24, one's in 23.98, and your audio recorder's in 23.98. When you bring all those recordings into your sequence, they're gonna line up at first, but over time, the sync is gonna drift off, even though the difference is only 0.02 frames per second. And you just wanna be careful to make sure that every device you're using, if you're using multiple cameras, if you're using audio recorders, are all set up in the same frame rate, so when you go to edit your CMF film, there's no sync issues.